Okay, um, I'm starting to think that I'm making too many of these videos, but I'm going to just kind of take you through what we're actually thinking about when we do all these techniques. Okay, let's just put up three guys. Here's a read spot. Here's three defenders. Okay, they're birds. Okay, you got green light. Whether you're blocking down or blocking down to the outside, you've got leverage to the read spot on the defender. Okay, so these rip and run teams, they come smoking off the ball. Uh, when they face this, the whole defense gets moved, especially if they give the illusion that they're going to hook. And this is classic match. Okay, if the defense will help you out, it's pretty good. I'm going to pause it for a second. Okay, everything's all good until they start back gapping or front gapping, however you want to do it. So now it's like, well, I can chase this guy. Maybe I can trap him back. I don't know what. This is all good. Okay, so you get a little back gap. So the next phase of this thing was, I'm pretty old, and I remember Vince Lombardi and the Green Bay Packers, and one of the concepts they had was doodad, the doodad block. He do this, you do that. Okay, so what they did was they put four hands or however you wanted to do it, wrong footed. But if this linebacker came to this guy, he'd block him, and he'd stay on him. And if the linebacker went this way, he'd block him. He'd come off and get here, and the back would have to find his way over in here. And that was all well and good. That's a box concept, 2-on-2, four hands, however, hip to hip, two forearms, whatever you want to do. But here's the problem with that one. When you reduce this to a 2-on-2, it works pretty good. But when you add an intruder, a third guy, okay, to this mix, so you say, okay, I'm going to spike this. I'm going to keep him out here. I'm going to spike this. I'm just going to sit there and wait for that back. Uh, by wrong footing this man here, you got a problem. Okay, so hang on. So now you got another problem. Okay, they go in two gap. Okay, they two gap these guys. So this guy can go either way, in or out. He can go in or out. This guy can scrape. These guys can long stick. They can do all kinds of. He can run in here. He can go in here. They're going to get to the read spot somehow. And this is how the hammer and tear kind of came into being. Okay, so we would all step this way looking for spikes, and if not, again we have yellow light. We would use the tear to turn him into what we want. Okay, and it's a pretty simple. It's sort of a wrestling concept. But anyway, he tears out. If this man spikes in, the this guy picks him up, and he just rewinds and waits for the backer, or shuts it off so that the back can spit. Okay, he shuffles over or skips or whatever he has to do depending on the leverage, and he hammers this guy and knocks him into the gap. That shuts everybody off, and the backer has to come to him. Okay, and if he stays square, if he doesn't turn his shoulders, okay, if he stays square like this, excuse me, okay, he can easily rewind back up to this dude. Okay, when he turns his shoulders like this, he's got to run backwards. So that's where the concept of translation, no matter what direction you're moving, you keep pointing in the same direction. Okay, that was the idea of square. Eventually, we learned that the shoulder roll, we could square up late. Okay, we could square to air, we could square up late, we could go into hammer. It was just a question of timing, and I felt as though the shoulder roll, the defensive part of it, where we defended our own armpit and our own chest, made it worthwhile. Okay, hang on one second. Okay, what I want you to imagine is me grabbing a guy, okay, grabbing him by his shoulder pad and then getting into his armpit, and his shoulders aren't, I mean, they're attached to each other and they're attached to his body. So if I can jack up this armpit, okay, with this hand, jack it up and pull with this one, I'm going to unbalance him. And what I'm doing is I'm using his what we call a seesaw. Okay, that's a class one lever. We're using his seesaw against him. He can't fight this. Okay, he can't fight it. Push, 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 push. He can fight. Okay, flip, 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 flip. He can do something. But this, for a while there, I was calling it like dumping a garbage pail because that's essentially what it is. I got an overhand grip and an underhand grip, and here I go. Okay, but basically, if I can get into the armpit with this hand, okay, and it's always this is the open leg, this is the closed leg hand, this is the open leg hand. When I'm looking that way, I'm getting help from that way, and that's what I'm doing. And when that help hits it, boom, I can tear this guy, and we don't necessarily want to throw him. Depends on where the uh, the the stovepipe is. If I'm in the stovepipe, I can tear him out and maybe eventually throw him. But why release him if I can tear him out? If I'm in the match area, yeah, I can throw him, but why release him? Okay, in other words, I can just fling him, but why release him? Because he's going to retrace. Okay, so I'd rather tear his ass out. Okay, and if I'm throwing him into the stovepipe, I got to throw him a long way. Now, if I can tear him through the stovepipe, different story. Okay, and that's why we tear. Okay, it's not throwing, it's dragging or flipping sideways or however you want to do it. When I explained it to McNally, he said, "Oh, well, that's tip." Yeah, I guess it is tip, but this was part of it. But this was the tear, dragging him this way was the most important part. Okay, that was the crux of the matter. Okay, got my Lewisburg colors on right here. Anyway, that's it.